A cop car destroyed in 1980 set a world record with 104 vehicles demolished in a single film, held that title for 18 years, and featured a 440 cubic inch engine that could hit 118 miles per hour. This beast started as a decommissioned $400 auction car, got jumped over an opening drawbridge, and became more famous than most of the actors in the movie. Today, we're revealing 30 badass facts about movie police cars that prove Hollywood's finest rides deserve as much respect as the heroes driving them. By fact number 1, you'll understand why one cop car modification took months to rig just to fall apart in one scene. Hit that like button if you love movie cars, because we're starting with the vehicle that redefined what a police interceptor could do on screen. The 1974 Dodge Monaco patrol car from the Blues Brothers wasn't just a prop, it was a demolition machine that changed movie history forever. The production team purchased 13 of these retired California highway patrol vehicles for just $400 each, and every single one of them took a beating that would make insurance adjusters weep. Under the hood sat a 440 Magnum engine, rated at 220 horsepower. But here's what most people don't know. These were pre-catalytic converter models, which meant they were pushing significantly more power than the factory numbers suggested. The speedometer topped out at 120 miles per hour, and during filming, these cars actually hit 118 mph on real Chicago streets. Director John Landis didn't use camera tricks or speed up the footage. He filmed everything at actual speed, and when test audiences didn't believe it, he went back and reshot scenes with pedestrians in the frame to prove the cars were really moving that fast. The production destroyed over 60 police cars during filming, setting a world record for the most vehicles wrecked in a single movie, with 104 total cars demolished. That record stood untouched until 1998, nearly 2 decades later. The film crew set up a 24-hour body shop on location because they were destroying cars faster than they could replace them. One particular scene required a specially rigged Monaco that would fall apart on command. The preparation for that single moment took months of engineering, with mechanics carefully weakening specific structural points so the car would disintegrate perfectly when it landed after a jump. All that work for one shot that lasted maybe 5 seconds on screen. The Bluesmobile became so iconic that it overshadowed the actual star cars in many ways, proving that sometimes the pursuers are more memorable than the pursued. The V8 Interceptor from Mad Max started life as an ordinary 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT, painted white and rolling off an Australian assembly line. What it became was something entirely different. The production team painted it glossy black and bolted on a weigh-in 671 supercharger that jutted through the hood like a declaration of war. Here's the twist, though. In the first Mad Max film, that supercharger was completely non-functional. It was pure visual intimidation, a movie prop that looked aggressive but didn't actually do anything. The car supposedly pushed 600 horsepower through the wheels, making it one of the most powerful pursuit vehicles ever shown on screen. After the first film wrapped, the production company fell on hard times and sold the Interceptor to pay off creditors. The sale price? $1 single. Someone bought one of cinema's most legendary vehicles for the cost of a cheap coffee. When Mad Max 2 went into production, the team tracked down the car and completely rebuilt it. This time, they made the supercharger functional and added massive fuel tanks with a claimed capacity of over 50 gallons. The Interceptor only appears in its full glory during the first film. In The Road Warrior, it gets progressively more beaten up before being completely destroyed in a spectacular crash. The original hero car survived, though, and after decades of being lost, it resurfaced and now sits in the Desert Collection at the Miami Auto Museum. Sheriff Buford T. Justice's 1977 Pontiac Le Mans became one of the most recognizable police vehicles in cinema history, and it happened almost by accident. The film's modest $4.3 million budget didn't leave much room for expensive hero cars, so production grabbed what was available. Jackie Gleason's performance as the frustrated sheriff made that Le Mans legendary, turning a standard police interceptor into a symbol of feudal authority, chasing bootleggers across state lines. The film earned $127 million at the box office, making it the second highest-grossing domestic film of 1977, beaten only by a little space opera called Star Wars. What most people don't realize is how much Smokey and the Bandit influenced American car culture. Pontiac Trans Am sales absolutely exploded after the film's release. Dealerships couldn't keep black and gold Trans Ams on the lot. The police car became a supporting character in its own right, battered and abused across multiple states, while Gleason delivered some of the most quotable lines in action comedy history. The Le Mans took jumps, crashes, and punishment that would total most vehicles, all while maintaining that iconic light bar and push bumper. When the sequel rolled around, the production upgraded Buford to a 1980 Pontiac Bonneville, a larger and more imposing vehicle that matched the character's escalating frustration. The original Le Mans from the first film became a collector's item, with replicas and tribute cars appearing at car shows for decades afterward. That's the power of great character work combined with the right vehicle. You don't need exotic sports cars to make movie magic. Sometimes a standard police interceptor and a talented actor are all it takes to create something unforgettable. The 1979 Chevrolet Impala police cruisers in Die Hard represented something different from other entries on this list. These weren't supercharged beasts or modified monsters. They were authentic working police vehicles that happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sergeant Al Powell's Impala became an unexpected hero of the film, serving as his mobile command post and connection to John McClane throughout the chaos at Nakatomi Plaza. The car featured the standard police package with reinforced suspension, upgraded cooling systems, and calibrated engines designed for pursuit work. The most memorable moment came when Marco's corpse dropped onto the hood from the tower above, a scene that required precise stunt coordination and a sacrificial Impala. The car crashes backward after taking gunfire, with the hood crumpling under the impact of the falling body. Reginald VelJohnson's breakout performance as Powell made that patrol car feel like a sanctuary in the middle of urban warfare, a small island of order trying to maintain control, while terrorists turned a Christmas party into a hostage situation. Multiple Impalas and Caprices were used throughout filming, with different vehicles serving different purposes. Some were rigged for specific stunts, others were used for interior dialogue scenes, and a few took damage that couldn't be repaired between takes. The sequels continued using period-appropriate LAPD vehicles, maintaining continuity while updating to whatever patrol cars were current at the time. These weren't flashy or particularly fast, but they represented authentic law enforcement trying to handle extraordinary circumstances with ordinary equipment. The police cars in the Terminator franchise evolved alongside the technology they were chasing. The original 1984 film featured 1977 Dodge Monaco patrol cars, the same model used in the Blues Brothers just a few years earlier. These represented the LAPD of the early 80s, solid and reliable vehicles that stood no chance against a cybernetic organism from the future. When Terminator 2 rolled around 7 years later, the production upgraded to 1987 Chevrolet Caprice models, reflecting the natural progression of police fleet updates. Greenlight Collectibles eventually produced die-cast versions of both the T-1000's LAPD Caprice and the original film's Monaco models, proving that even minor vehicle appearances in legendary films develop their own collector markets. The police cars in Terminator weren't heroes. They were obstacles and tools, commandeered by forces beyond human control and used against their intended purpose. That subversion of authority made them memorable in ways traditional hero vehicles never could achieve. The modified Ford Taurus patrol cars in RoboCop represented a dystopian vision of privatized law enforcement. These weren't your standard police interceptors. The production team took first-generation Taurus models and transformed them with matte black paint schemes, OCP corporate logos, and aggressive styling that suggested corporate control over public safety. The original script called for twin-jet turbine-powered vehicles, but budget constraints forced the designers to get creative with more conventional platforms. Here's something ironic. Ford was actually upset about their vehicles being featured in such a violent film, worried about brand association with the graphic content. But 27 years after RoboCop's release, Detroit was still using Ford Taurus models as patrol cars, proving the design was more prophetic than anyone realized at the time. The Taurus police package became one of the most common patrol vehicles in America, with departments across the country adopting the platform for its reliability and front-wheel drive handling in various weather conditions. The RoboCop franchise used these modified Taurus models across all 3 original films and even the television series. When the 2014 reboot arrived, production updated to 2013 Ford Taurus models with even more futuristic modifications, including specialized lighting and aggressive body kits that suggested technological advancement. The consistency of using Ford products created visual continuity across decades, even as the specific models changed. These cars represented authority in a world where the line between corporate power and police power had completely dissolved, making them perfect symbols of the franchise's themes. Axel Foley's crappy blue Chevy Nova was a 1970 model, representing the last year of high-performance Nova production before the Clean Air Act changed everything. Under that beat-up exterior sat a 6.4-liter engine, originally rated at 375 horsepower, when new, though by the time the film rolled around, that particular Nova had seen better days. The contrast between Foley's Detroit Survivor and the pristine Beverly Hills police cruisers became a visual representation of the culture clash driving the entire film. Detroit's police force used Plymouth Grand Fury and Chrysler Newport models, working-class American iron designed for durability rather than luxury. Meanwhile, Beverly Hills rolled in 1981 Chevrolet Impalas with spotless paint jobs and equipment that looked fresh off the showroom floor. That difference wasn't accidental. Production designer deliberately chose vehicles that emphasized the economic divide between industrial Detroit and wealthy Beverly Hills, making the cars themselves part of the storytelling. The sequels continued this tradition, with Foley's personal vehicles always looking slightly rough around the edges while California law enforcement maintained their polished appearance. The Detroit police cars took more abuse and showed more wear, reflecting departments operating on tighter budgets with older equipment. Beverly Hills cruisers remained immaculate throughout, suggesting unlimited resources and a different relationship with crime. These weren't action hero cars designed to excite audiences with power and speed. They were character development on four wheels, showing class divisions and cultural differences without anyone saying a word about it. Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane went through police cars the way most people go through coffee filters. The Dukes of Hazzard destroyed vehicles at a rate that would bankrupt actual law enforcement agencies, turning patrol car crashes into slapstick comedy. The production used multiple models throughout the series run, starting with a 1974 AMC Matador and 1970 Dodge Polara in the first season, before settling primarily on 1977 Dodge Monaco models from Season 2 onward. Midway through Season 4, they switched to 1978 Plymouth Fury models, adapting to whatever vehicles were available and affordable. The show famously destroyed over 300 Dodge Chargers during its run, making General Lee the most wrecked car in television history. But people forget that countless police cars were also demolished in those famous jumps, crashes, and comedy chase sequences. Roscoe's patrol car became as much a character as Boss Hogg's Cadillac, instantly recognizable with that distinctive light bar and the sheriff's frustrated expression behind the wheel. The crashes were rarely serious or dramatic. They were cartoonish, with cars landing in ponds, wrapping around trees, or crumpling into accordion shapes while Roscoe emerged unscathed to shake his fist at those Duke boys. The 2005 film adaptation updated to more modern vehicles while trying to maintain the spirit of the original series, but nothing quite captured the magic of those old Monacos and Furies taking ridiculous punishment week after week. The show proved that police cars didn't need to be heroes or villains. Sometimes they could just be props in an ongoing comedy about rural rebellion against corrupt authority, and that was enough to make them memorable. The Bad Boys franchise took a different approach to police vehicles, mixing high-performance personal cars with standard Miami-Dade patrol units. Mike Lowry's 1994 Porsche 911 Turbo wasn't technically a police car, but it got used for enough unofficial police work to blur those lines. The franchise showed wealthy cops using their own vehicles alongside department-issued equipment, creating a unique blend of exotic performance and traditional law enforcement presence. The sequels escalated this approach, bringing in Ferrari 575 Anirs and 550 models that would never appear in an actual police motor pool. Miami-Dade police vehicles in the films represented authentic law enforcement equipment, mostly Chevrolet Caprices, and later Crown Victoria models that formed the backbone of real patrol fleets. The contrast between these working vehicles and the personal cars created visual variety while maintaining believability. Directors Michael Bay and others understood that not every cop drives a supercar, but putting supercars in certain scenes elevated the action to blockbuster levels. The franchise influenced public perception of Miami law enforcement, making the city's police presence seem more glamorous and high-tech than reality. Those sleek patrol units racing through South Beach became iconic images of urban action cinema, proving that location matters just as much as vehicle selection. The police cars weren't just transportation. They were mobile advertisements for Miami's unique blend of luxury and law enforcement, style and substance, making every chase scene feel distinctly different from New York or Los Angeles police action. Super Troopers took Vermont State Police patrol cars and turned them into mobile comedy clubs. The film used authentic Crown Victoria police interceptors with proper Vermont State Police livery, but the similarities to serious law enforcement ended there. These vehicles became props for pranks, with officers playing games to entertain themselves during boring highway patrol shifts. The opening scene alone, with the license plate game and escalating marijuana stop, turned a routine patrol car into a comedy venue on wheels. The Crown Victoria was the standard American police interceptor at the time, used by departments across the country for its rear-wheel drive handling and reliable V8 power. Super Troopers didn't modify these vehicles or make them perform impossible stunts. Instead, the comedy came from officers misusing perfectly functional equipment in increasingly absurd ways. The cars became extensions of the characters' personalities as unprofessional and ridiculous as the troopers themselves. The sequel maintained this approach, showing that the formula still worked nearly 2 decades later. Police cars don't have to be serious or intimidating to be memorable. Sometimes making them the setting for humor rather than action creates something just as iconic. Those Vermont State Police Interceptors became as much a part of the cult classic status as the Broken Lizard comedy troupe themselves, proving that any vehicle can become legendary with the right script and performers. Michael Mann's Heat showcased LAPD vehicles in their most realistic form. The film used authentic mid-90s patrol cars with no modifications or Hollywood glamour, showing professional law enforcement using professional equipment. The Crown Victoria Police Interceptors and Chevrolet Caprices represented the actual LAPD fleet of the time, complete with proper paint schemes, equipment mounting, and realistic wear patterns. The famous downtown shootout scene showed these vehicles used as mobile cover during the extended firefight. Officers parked cruisers at angles to create defensive positions, using them exactly as real tactical training would dictate. Cars took bullet damage that looked authentic, with rounds punching through doors and shattering windows in realistic patterns. No Hollywood explosions or impossible crashes, just authentic vehicle usage during an extremely violent encounter. Mann's documentary-style approach extended to every vehicle in the film. Police cars looked used rather than showroom fresh, with minor dents and scratches suggesting real duty cycles. Interiors showed the clutter of actual patrol work, with paperwork, equipment, and personal items visible in background shots. This attention to detail made Heat's police vehicles fade into the background, which was exactly the point. They weren't stars. They were tools used by professionals, and that realism made them more memorable than any amount of Hollywood modification could achieve. The French Connection featured one of cinema's most famous chase sequences, with Gene Hackman pursuing an elevated train through Brooklyn in a 1971 Pontiac Le Mans, while technically driving an unmarked detective car rather than a marked patrol unit. The film showcased authentic NYPD equipment and procedures from the early 70s. The marked patrol cars that appeared throughout used period-correct Plymouth Fury and Dodge Polara models with distinctive NYPD livery. These vehicles represented a different era of law enforcement before modern interceptor packages and advanced emergency equipment. Basic V8 engines, simple light bars, and minimal electronics characterized these working police cars. The film's documentary-style photography showed them exactly as they appeared on New York streets, complete with the grime and wear of constant urban use. The influence of the French Connection extended far beyond its own era. The chase scene established templates that action films followed for decades, proving that authentic vehicles in real locations created more excitement than controlled stunt environments. Those NYPD patrol cars weren't the stars, but their authentic presence grounded even the most intense action in recognizable reality. Directors learned that audiences responded to authenticity, making these simple police cruisers more influential than anyone realized at the time. Both the 1974 original and the 2000 remake of Gone in 60 Seconds featured extensive police pursuit sequences with multiple agencies and vehicle types. The remake used modern Crown Victoria Police Interceptors, Chevrolet Caprices, and even California Highway Patrol vehicles in the massive final chase. The production destroyed numerous police cars in spectacular crashes and stunts, showing the escalating response to Eleanor's escape. The film showcased different police equipment based on jurisdiction, with LAPD, LASD, and CHP vehicles all appearing with authentic livery and equipment. This attention to detail created visual variety while maintaining believability, showing how coordinated law enforcement responses actually worked. The Crown Vics took impressive punishment, with multiple units destroyed in crashes that tested the vehicle's structural integrity. Gone in 60 Seconds didn't make police cars heroes or villains. They were obstacles in the way of the protagonist's goal, representing organized authority trying to stop organized crime. The variety of agencies and vehicle types created visual interest throughout the extended chase sequences, proving that mixing different police equipment could enhance action rather than confuse audiences. Those pursuit vehicles became essential parts of one of the longest chase sequences in modern action cinema. The Fast and Furious franchise evolved from street racing to international espionage, and police vehicles evolved right alongside. Early films featured authentic LAPD Crown Victorias and undercover vehicles pursuing street racers through Los Angeles. Later entries brought in everything from Dodge Chargers to custom-built tactical vehicles that pushed the boundaries of believability. The franchise understood that police equipment needed to escalate alongside the increasingly absurd criminal capabilities. When the heroes started using military-grade hardware, law enforcement had to respond with equally impressive equipment. This led to modified Chargers with supercharged Hemi engines, tactical SUVs with advanced technology, and even international police forces bringing their own unique vehicles to various chase sequences. The series proved that police cars could be as exciting as the hero vehicles when given proper attention and modifications. Those Dodge Charger Pursuit models became almost as iconic as the tuner cars they chased, representing authority that could actually keep up with the protagonists rather than being left behind. The franchise showed that police vehicles didn't have to be boring or basic, that they could be modified and upgraded to match whatever level of crazy the plot demanded. The Police Academy franchise turned police vehicles into comedy props, with training cars and patrol units suffering indignities that would horrify actual law enforcement agencies. The films used various models throughout the series, with Crown Victorias, Caprices, and other standard police vehicles taking abuse during training sequences and rookie officer misadventures. These weren't hero cars. They were victims of incompetence and bad luck. The comedy came from watching police equipment used incorrectly or destroyed through stupidity rather than action. Training scenarios went wrong, damaging vehicles that were supposed to teach proper procedures. The franchise showed what happens when you give police cars to people who have no business driving them, creating humor from the mismatch between equipment capabilities and officer competence. Despite the comedy, Police Academy used authentic vehicles with proper equipment and markings. This grounding in reality made the ridiculous situations funnier, showing recognizable police cars in unrecognizable circumstances. The franchise proved that police vehicles could support comedy just as effectively as action, drama, or thriller genres, expanding the range of roles these vehicles could play in cinema. Speed put LAPD SWAT vehicles and patrol cars in supporting roles during the famous bus chase sequence. The film used authentic police equipment including Crown Victorias, tactical trucks, and specialized SWAT vehicles, showing the full range of law enforcement capabilities during a crisis response. These vehicles provided mobile command posts, pursuit capabilities, and tactical support throughout the extended action sequence. The film showed police equipment used properly under extreme circumstances, with officers employing vehicles according to actual procedures in training. Patrol cars blocked traffic and secured perimeters while specialized vehicles provided tactical capabilities. This attention to authentic usage made the police response feel professional and coordinated rather than chaotic or random. Speed influenced how action films portrayed coordinated law enforcement responses, showing multiple agencies and vehicle types working together toward a common goal. Those LAPD vehicles became part of a larger machine, individual components in a complex operation that felt realistic even within an absurd premise. The film proved that showing police equipment used correctly could be just as exciting as showing it destroyed or misused. End of Watch showed modern LAPD patrol work with documentary-style realism, using authentic department vehicles and equipment throughout. The film featured Ford Crown Victoria police interceptors in their final years of service, representing the end of an era for American law enforcement vehicles. These patrol cars appeared exactly as working officers used them, complete with the wear and tear of constant South Central Los Angeles duty. The film's handheld camera work put audiences inside the patrol cars, showing equipment, procedures, and vehicle conditions from an officer's perspective. The Crown Vics appeared as working tools rather than movie props, with worn interiors, functioning equipment, and the accumulated details of real patrol duty. End of Watch captured the transition period as LAPD began phasing out Crown Victorias in favor of newer models. The film documented not just police work, but the vehicles that made that work possible, creating a time capsule of early 2010s law enforcement equipment. Those aging interceptors represented the backbone of American policing, reliable workhorses that had served for decades, but were approaching the end of their service life. The film honored these vehicles by showing them honestly, creating one of the most authentic police vehicle portrayals in modern cinema. The Rush Hour franchise paired LAPD Detective James Carter with Hong Kong Inspector Lee, creating cultural clash comedy that extended to police vehicles. The films used authentic LAPD equipment including Crown Victorias and later Ford Crown Victoria police interceptors, showing standard department issue throughout the trilogy. These vehicles provided transportation and mobile comedy venues as Carter and Lee bickered their way through cases. The franchise didn't modify or glamorize police equipment, instead using authentic vehicles as settings for the buddy cop dynamic. Interior shots showed real patrol car layouts with proper equipment placement and department-issue gear. The comedy came from character interactions rather than vehicle action, though the series included several impressive chase sequences using both marked and unmarked police vehicles. Rush Hour influenced international buddy cop films, showing how cultural differences could create comedy within standard police procedural frameworks. Those LAPD patrol cars represented American law enforcement meeting Hong Kong police methodology, creating friction and humor through the contrast. The vehicles themselves weren't jokes, which made the comedy happening inside them funnier by providing straight-faced context for absurd situations. Live Free or Die Hard brought John McClane back into conflict with modern law enforcement, showing evolved police responses to cyber-terrorism threats. The film featured contemporary police equipment including newer model Crown Victorias, Dodge Chargers, and specialized tactical vehicles representing post-9/11 law enforcement capabilities. These vehicles showed how much police equipment had advanced in the 2 decades since the original Die Hard. The modern patrol cars featured updated emergency lighting, improved communications equipment, and enhanced tactical capabilities compared to the 1979 Impalas from the first film. This evolution reflected real changes in American law enforcement, with departments upgrading equipment in response to changing threats and available technology. The film used vehicle differences to show time passage and technological advancement without explicit exposition. Live Free or Die Hard demonstrated how police vehicles could mark series evolution and changing eras. Those modern interceptors represented a different world than the original film, one where threats had become more complex and law enforcement responses had adapted accordingly. The franchise used vehicle evolution as visual shorthand for larger changes in society and policing, making those patrol cars historical markers as much as movie props. These 30 police cars weren't just props rolling through frame to fill background space. They were co-stars that defined entire films, created iconic moments, and became cultural touchstones that transcended their original purposes. From auction bargains purchased for $400 to multi-million-dollar museum pieces, these vehicles traveled an incredible journey from utility equipment to celebrated artifacts of cinema history. The Blues Brothers alone destroyed more police cars than most departments purchase in a decade, setting records that stood for nearly 20 years and proving that sometimes destruction creates immortality. The evolution from simple patrol cars to high-tech interceptors mirrors America's changing relationship with law enforcement and authority. Mad Max showed us post-apocalyptic pursuit in vehicles that sold for a single dollar before becoming priceless. RoboCop predicted Detroit's future police fleet nearly 3 decades before the department actually adopted those vehicles. Beverly Hills Cop used cars to illustrate class warfare without speaking a word about economics. These weren't accidents or coincidences. They were deliberate choices by filmmakers who understood that vehicles communicate messages as clearly as dialogue. The destruction statistics alone tell an incredible story. Hundreds of police cars demolished for entertainment, crushed, jumped, exploded, and wrecked in every conceivable way. Yet many survived to become collector's items worth exponentially more than their original purchase prices. The Bluesmobile, the Interceptor, various Batmobiles, and countless other police vehicles now sit in museums and private collections, preserved as automotive history and cinema artifacts simultaneously. Some were saved by accident, others by deliberate preservation efforts. But all survived because people recognized their cultural significance transcended their mechanical specifications. Modern action films continue this tradition, though practical effects have largely given way to digital enhancement and CGI augmentation. The physicality of destroying actual vehicles created visceral impact that computer graphics struggle to replicate. When a 1974 Dodge Monaco crashes through a mall in the Blues Brothers, audiences feel that impact because it actually happened. Real glass shattered, real metal crumpled, and real stunt drivers risked real injury to create those moments. Contemporary films can show more spectacular crashes with less risk, but something intangible was lost when productions moved away from practical vehicle stunts.